All right. Welcome to my interview here with Authority Magazine. I'm Shauna Robbins, CEO and founder of Third Spark. Today, we're talking about embracing grace, how women are redefining aging authentically. And I'm here with Lisa Murphy. Lisa is a certified coach who empowers midlife women to create more fun and fulfilling lives. From a career pivot and launching the 50 Forward Club to getting sober, Lisa understands the benefits of coaching firsthand. Her insights and writing have also been featured in numerous magazines and newspapers. So, hello, Lisa. Thanks for joining me.
Hello, thank you so much for having me on and talking about this wonderful topic.
Yeah, my pleasure. All right, so let's talk about what aging authentically means to you.
Yeah, I think aging authentically to me really means taking the time to think about what you really want and need at this stage in your life. Let's say you're in your early 50s, for example, average lifespan for women, you may have another 3 decades ahead of you. And so, in terms of like culture and society, there may be a feeling of like, oh my gosh, this is the end of your career, or everything's changing, empty nest, caregiving. There's so much going on. But I just think it's a wonderful time to really dig into who you want to be, where you want to go, and so that you can really make the next 3 decades of your life feel very authentic and true to yourself and your own needs.
Yeah, I love that. I would agree with that being in my early 50s. There's so many trials and tribulations at this period in our lives. And so kind of redefining not only who you are, but just coming back to yourself. Losing yourself in your 30s and 40s, whether it's raising a family, chasing a career, caregiving parents, all those things that you touched on. Not, really coming back into like that question of who am I? What do I love? What am I passionate about? What's my purpose at this stage in the game? And I love that you bring up the 30 years, because that's why my company's named Third Spark. It's that third section of life. And I think it's fascinating that, women 100 years ago really didn't live past the age of 47. I mean, they had menopause, and then 10 years later, that was it. Their life was done. And now we have this gift of having, this third spark. And so how do we best use it, is such an important thing for women to be defining for themselves. So tell me, what are some of the common misperceptions about aging that you think need to be changed or challenged?
Yeah, I think, number one, the misconception that, um, you know, your career is over, for example. On 50 Forward Club, my Instagram feed, I've profiled so many women who have started new companies, podcasts. They're doing all kinds of cool new things in their 50s, 60s, 70s. And so there's absolutely no need to kind of feel like, our career is over. And it could be, for those who choose that they are in a good position financially and they're ready to stop kind of doing their traditional career, great. But for those who kind of want to continue doing new things, there's infinite possibility. So, although, of course, we are living in an ageist culture, there's no question. I know many women, I'm 54. I know many women in their late 40s or, mid 50s who, if they haven't been downsized, maybe they have been felt marginalized in the workplace. So I'm not denying the ageist reality of culture, but I am really encouraging women to really think about kind of what's possible for them, and that it is possible to kind of create a whole new career or just follow your passions, as you say.
I love that. That's really
Yeah.
inspiring. I agree with you 100% on that. So,
Yeah.
in your article, you talk about the 5 ways that women can age authentically. Can you give us an idea of what you see those 5 ways as being? What kind of tips that you give to your clients, or the women that are in your, your Forward 50 club?
Absolutely. I mean, I think the number one thing is really to take the time to explore what you want next, to think about where you would like to be, 5 years from now, so that you can really sort of start to think about who you are. And as you said, sometimes it's not necessarily a reinvention per se, it's more of a reclaiming. But we really need that time to think about what will help us live in an authentic way. I think also, as discussed, thinking about, what do I want to do next, whether it's in my career or just in my, time, what passions do I want to pursue? What new skills do I want to gain? This is an incredible time where we can continue to evolve and learn. And so really thinking about that is so key. I think also uh, giving yourself the opportunity to think about your mindset and how it impacts how you feel. Um, and particularly in a society that expects us to be, incredible workers, moms, caregivers, children, like elderly caregivers, where there's a lot of expectations of what our role should be, both externally, but also internally.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's so important at this stage in our lives to really think about some of the thoughts that we're thinking and how it's impacting how we feel, and to kind of push back on some of those thoughts about who we should be that may not be serving us anymore. And also, from a, sort of aging and beauty perspective, really giving ourselves the opportunity to think about what does beauty mean to us inside and out. And again, it's a very youth obsessed culture. Um, I think women in their 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s look incredible. I love the fact that there's just this huge diversity now of what beauty is and celebration of the beauty that we have. And so there's another opportunity there, I think, to kind of, from a personal perspective, kind of think again about some of the thoughts or mindsets about, what beauty means to you, what aging is, or the feelings about our body, like, for example, sure, yeah, my right knee is kind of hurting these days. But, I also have this body that helps me do all kinds of incredible things. And I'm grateful for that. So kind of reframing how we feel about ourselves and our own personal beauty.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and just sort of starting to pursue our dreams, and to celebrate our wins, however small as they are. And that means celebrating small wins every single day. It means celebrating wins as we move towards goals. And it's also about redefining what wins are, because sometimes, we think that we may have been socialized or, thought up until now, like the only wins are having a huge salary or, getting another degree or, but what if a real win is actually carving out more time for people who really fill your cup? That's a win.
That's a huge
What
win.
if a win is taking time for yourself to kind of explore your feelings? Like, that's a win. So really just kind of redefining what wins are and celebrating them.
Wow, that's great. I hope that anybody listening to this or watching this is really inspired to take your advice seriously, because I do think that those really make a really big difference in your mindset around aging and aging authentically. Yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
what advice would you give to someone who's struggling with aging? I know that sometimes with menopause comes a level of grief, and I've seen that with my clients. I've seen that with myself. A loss, a sense of my youth is behind me, my childbearing years are behind me, and not really knowing what you're going into as far as the journey of aging and the journey of menopause. So what advice would you give to somebody who's maybe in that perimenopause stage who's struggling with it?
Yeah, I mean, many of my clients are in that stage, and I myself was in that stage about 5 years ago. So, first off, you're not alone. It is going to get better. The perimenopausal symptoms are real. Things like anxiety, depression, obviously sleep difficulties. It's not in your mind. And if you have a doctor that is not helping you address some of those symptoms, then keep looking for a new doctor if you can. I know it's not always easy. But, you know, it's completely understandable that we come to this stage. And as you say, we've got that feelings of grief, the change, not knowing what to do next. And so my biggest advice is to sort of stop and start listening to yourself, taking stock, doing self-coaching exercises, like thinking about like a vision of where you want to go, starting to create daily habits that help you recognize what lights you up and what doesn't, sort of feeling grateful for the things that really make a difference in your life, and sort of starting to see patterns about kind of what is bringing you joy and what isn't. And so when you start to do that work, then, the things that you could be doing in future start to bubble up and emerge. And as you say, you're kind of either like kind of reclaiming some of who you used to be, um, you know, pre-menopause, pre-children, in our teens or in our childhood, sort of bringing some of those thoughts up as well. But really taking the time to kind of dig into that allows us to kind of see what's next. And obviously, it's not, just add water and it instantly happens. It is a habit, it's a practice. So for myself, for example, 4 days a week, I do mindset work to sort of think about, okay, what am I grateful for? What are my goals? What am I going to do today that will help me get a little bit closer to my goals? But sometimes that might mean, you know, today I'm going to focus on supporting my family. Today I'm going to focus on, going for that big goal that I have. So it can mean very different things. But I just think my biggest advice is take this time to really stop and explore what you need next and where you want to go, and creating habits that will help you get there and help you find that knowledge is so key.
That's great advice. It's hard to do when you're in the thick of things, right? It's very hard for women to put
Yes.
themselves on the list and make time for themselves. Yeah.
Yeah. And you know what? That is such a valid point. And I think, again, like as women, we're often socialized to put everybody else first. It's like we've got to put our kids first, our friends first, our partner, our parents. There's a lot of things and people who are vying for our time. But, not to use that cliche, metaphor or analogy, but you really do need to put the oxygen mask on first, because when you really give yourself time, and it could be as little as 15 minutes a day, but if you just start to give yourself some time, you are going to be able to become a better friend to yourself, a better friend to others, more fulfilled, more prolific. But the first step, if you find yourself saying, I just don't have time, like I don't have time for this, I don't have, you know, just sort of like take a moment to think about that thought and sort of think, what if I made a bit of time? If I spend an hour on social media every day, could I just take 5 minutes away from that? If I binge watch TV shows for 3 hours a night, could I just take 10 minutes from that? Because if we ask ourselves, some of the things that we're doing in our lives aren't necessarily, feeling good. They're not necessarily, you know, bringing us joy. And so starting to kind of question yourself when you say, I don't have time for this, pushing back on that and saying, you know what, I can make a bit of time, even if it's 15 minutes. It can make a huge difference.
Yeah, that's the value of working with a coach, isn't it? I know that how powerful it's been for me personally to work with coaches and then also coach others. It really helps to keep you on track and keep you accountable to yourself, which is really important. All right, so how can people find you? Where can they follow you and connect with you?
Yeah, well, they can visit my website, coachlisamurphy.com. They can see me on Instagram or Facebook at Coach Lisa Murphy. And they can also follow my 50 Forward Club Instagram feed, which is at 50 Forward Club. And you can follow it even if you're 35. I have lots of clients who are in their 30s who are kind of asking these questions as well, and kind of thinking about career pivots and also thinking about what's next for them, what they want their 40s, what they want their 50s to be like. And that is such an incredible and valuable gift to give yourself.
Yeah, wonderful. Great, Lisa. Well, I look forward to connecting with you. I can't wait to see what you have and what you offer. And I really appreciate this conversation that we had today. Aging authentically is something that's really important to me, like we talked about beforehand. And I think that the more we open up these conversations and kind of give women different options, different things to think about, different ways to consider, just how they want to live the rest, that third spark of their life, the more empowered they become, the more elevated they become, and just the better our society and world becomes as a whole when we elevate and empower women. So thank you so much for
Couldn't
joining.
agree more.